Hi there, this is Dylan, and I know I haven't posted in about 3 weeks or a month or something. I would have posted sooner, but we made a video a couple weeks ago that we just got stalled out about as a system. We couldn't agree whether or not to post it. Finally, we decided not to. We didn't say anything particularly intense. It just, for whatever reason, we just didn't all feel like we used all the right words, and the whole thing was just kind of awkward. So we decided to just make a new video and talk about how we're doing right now, as well as how we were doing when we made that video. So right now we are recording this on a really difficult trigger date. We're finding ourselves dealing with it better than usual, but I know that it's hard for a lot of people. We have just been sitting in this field for the past day and a half or so, trying to rest after a while of really intense traveling. We've been dealing with a lot of trauma, mostly past trauma, and then the usual ongoing targeting. So basically mostly just MK related stuff, but then just being homeless, is hard in and of itself. We've been dealing with it largely by physically moving too much, by not taking time to just rest. It's a trauma response that we have that causes us a lot of pain and suffering. Thankfully, finally, the last couple days, we've felt able to just chill. So it's not that we haven't had anywhere to go or anything to do or any reason to move quickly, but it's just we do it way too much. So right now we're pretty stoned and as relaxed as we could probably hope to be. We've been sewing a lot this morning and listening to music. And we're just trying to recover from everything. We've been going through this intense integration. This has been the whole time we've been integrating. It's been this kind of thing, but we've been going through a specific cycle in our process that's been really intense where protectors have been integrating. This kind of triad of integration has been occurring, or trinity, if you will, where protectors, the littles they were protecting, and front alters who didn't really know anything about any of it, were all converging into a central point. This has been coming up throughout many subsystems in our overall system, and it's been really interesting to watch for me as an alter, and just really intense for everyone. So it's caused us to feel a lot more physical pain on a front level. It's caused us to also feel a lot more trust in people we can trust, and also distrust in people we shouldn't so much. And I'm not saying that it's black and white, but trust and distrust have been coming up a lot. We just feel more discerning about other people, more grounded about our relationships, and more grounded when we set boundaries. So that's really cool. We're finding that our panic around people is a lot less in the protector alters kind of remaining space that's in the process of integrating, while front alters are feeling a lot more anxiety. And so it's much more balanced now. And in the meantime, the littles are just becoming one with all the older parts here. And I'm not saying this is for every single part of our system, but it's happening throughout. And it's really, I feel like I'm just basically describing what the integration process has always been for us, but it's actually feeling real to me as a part in a way that it didn't before. So it really feels like I'm describing this for the first time. So anyways, I'm not entirely sure what else to say right now. I think that some altars that were bigger and used to having bigger thoughts have integrated with some littles and are now having smaller thoughts about what our video should be about. And they're saying that they want us to talk about our physical surroundings right now and our belongings, some of our art projects, and to just share with you guys about our life in that way. So I think I'm going to go ahead and let them do that, even though it feels weird for me. I'm used to being more adult here in our videos. But anyways, I guess I'll just let them do this because it seems important to them. So I don't think any littles are going to talk, but their spirit will be talking through the older parts that are talking because of the integration, like I said. So I guess I'll start with my shirt. I'm wearing this long sleeve shirt. Oh, before I start, I should get bigger here for a second and say that this may be really triggering, seriously triggering some of the things. I know that just our imagery in our shirt right here is probably quite triggering for some people. Yeah, we do a lot of shadow art. We do a lot of expressions of our trauma through art, and we wear them on our clothes a lot. We express ourselves in ways in our clothes that we often don't express ourselves online, because we actually feel an obligation to create a safer space on here than we feel just walking down the street. For the most part, we're a very solitary person, so we figure that, we'd be exposing a lot more vulnerable people to stuff online than we would in real life, if that makes any sense. So I'm just saying that by sharing this, I may be bringing a lot of things to people's minds that are painful or triggering. There's a lot of symbols and things from traumas that we've been through. So especially around this date. I don't know when I'll actually be posting this, but if it's anywhere close to this date, I definitely suggest extra caution. Okay, so that said, I'm going to get into my kind of hybrid integrating big small space and share about what's right here. So I guess I'll start with our shirt. We found this long sleeve shirt in a box on the ground at a strip mall in a town we were traveling in, I believe. And I recall that it smelled like incense. It just overwhelmingly screamed it belonged to a hippie before. And we felt really called to it. We specifically felt called to give it to our husband. And while he has worn it, we've actually been wearing it lately. So right on here is a scrap from a shirt we got at a thrift store. And so is this right here. And underneath it says, "Get lost" in cursive. And I think the message is saying to get lost in the woods, to get lost in nature. So I thought it was cute. So I turned it into this over time. My hair right now was never intended to be blonde. It was intended to be kind of pink, like in that little strip right here. But it almost all washed out. We did the bleach and the dye ourselves in a park with our husband several months ago, and we'd like to dye it green, but we haven't had the opportunity yet. Right here in front of me is this bag that I got at a thrift store for like $5, and on it I wrote something. It's probably going to be backwards in the recording, I'm sorry about that, but it says "Trafficked Lives Matter," and it's all faded, but on the inside we wrote "Listen to Victims." So we're going to have to fix that up. We just haven't gotten around to it this last time. But we really like the bag too. It's got lots of compartments, and it's got this little cat on it. And we've always felt extremely drawn to cats. Also in front of me I have my mask, which I don't wear unless I have to like go inside a store or take the bus or something. I am homeless, and I've said what I think of the coronavirus already, I believe. But I do have a mask for when I have to use one. So this is my mask. It's kind of hard to see. I guess you can see it. I found it on the ground in front of a recycling center, and it was super filthy, and it had a hole in it, and its straps, I think, were either missing or they wouldn't work for me. And so I picked it up out of absolute necessity in the moment, because I needed one to go inside and I'd forgotten it. And I did not want to go back with all my recycling to where I was and get the mask I had. So I went ahead and put it on in its disrepair, and then as soon as I could, I washed it and I sewed it up. I sewed on this little heart patch. I think I already showed you, but this little heart patch right here out of scraps, and colored some of it with marker I found on the ground. And I put on new ends to it, new ear things, because I think they did have some already, but sensory thing. And I used t-shirt scraps from this t-shirt, and it was also slightly the wrong size, I believe, so I had to cut it and fix it up. I think it was too big. So you can see there's a seam down the middle. I sewed it up, I think, probably with sewing supplies I got at the Dollar Tree. They have these little sewing kits that are not the greatest quality, but most of it works. The most essential parts work, other than the scissors. And I think maybe I'd actually gotten better sewing supplies for that particular time, but for the most part, I just used that. And then I have in front of me this blanket, and this says triggering colors and pattern, but I'm going to go ahead and show it anyway, because small space, and I've given warnings. So this blanket is this at least somewhat waterproof blanket that we found on the ground, what looked like an old camp, on the side of the highway behind some buildings, on the edge of this little town. And we normally never take bedding or anything that looks like it's from a camp, new or old, because of course we don't want to take something someone's still using, and we also don't want to take things that are going to have bugs or be too hazardously unsanitary. However, we had been asking our higher powers to bring us to another blanket, one that was darker colored than the one that we normally use on top, so that we aren't so visible at night. And we had been specifically meditating on the colors red and black and feeling drawn to that aesthetic. So when we found this blanket, and it looked to be in good condition, we felt like, it seemed correct. So we took it and washed it, and I think we had to carry it for days, traveling, walking along the highway in a bag, but it's proven to be safe and a great blanket for us. So hopefully it didn't have a current owner, or they don't mind, because we don't ever want to take other people's stuff that they're actually using. It's just sometimes we happen upon things and it just feels too correct. So let's see, what else do we have? We have our jacket here. I don't know if I should show all of it or not, but this is our fake leather jacket that we found on the ground, I think in San Francisco. And we tried not to take anything off the ground in San Francisco, to be honest, but there were just too many great ground scores and we were too in need. So yeah, I guess I can share some patches on here. So we have sewed all our own patches on here. This one I don't think you can see very well, and I'm really tired and stoned, so I'm doing a poor job. My coordination is already not great with things like this, but especially right now. But anyways, this is a tree here with flowers, and it says root for each other We got it at a thrift store of a t-shirt. We just loved it too much. This right here is a patch that we made for the psychobilly band, the Meteors. I'm not sure how much I can say about that because of the amount of little space I'm in, but they're definitely something we connect with because of traumas. We find a lot of relief in their dark humor. This is probably our most personal one, but it's right here, so I'm going to go ahead and share it. I'm not sure how much you can see, but it says Caterpillar Squad. And then it has the years 1996 to 2014 written in really faded now letters. And then there's a spiny little caterpillar, kind of millipede looking thing. So that has to do with MKUltra stuff, but specifically deprogramming. I can't go into it too much, but the basic, summary of it is that in the imagery of monarch mind control, they tell you that you start out as a caterpillar or a worm, and they shame and devalue and torture and humiliate you so extremely that you lose touch with reality. And then when you're in a hypnotic state, they put suggestions to be a beautiful butterfly instead. If you just submit to all the other suggestions, that is the programming. And the base of the programming, what they're actually trying to get you to think or do. So we had some altars when we were very small that were very bonded with caterpillars. A big thing that saved us was our earth worship, our inclination towards an ecstatic state of joy and connection with the earth. Something we've experienced since we can remember anything, really. But when we were between the ages of maybe 4 to 6 years old, we got really into a conscious state of connection with the earth, and specifically had a relationship with caterpillars. And we decided, well, you know what, I don't think I'm allowed to say more about it. But anyways, the phrase Caterpillar Squad, it relates to deprogramming stuff we've done. Okay, and then here I have this. This is the first thing that I put on this jacket. It says love and has a trans pride symbol. And the thing that inspired it for us wasn't just us being non-binary and knowing and loving many trans people, but we were in San Francisco at the time, and we were walking through the Tenderloin, and we saw that there were all these trans pride flags painted onto, I think they were light poles or telephone poles or something. And one of them had something about Jesus that someone had written on top of it. And it really hurt to see that. And we wanted very badly to tag something else onto it, but we decided that it was not our place to do that. Even though we're trans, we don't belong to that neighborhood. And we didn't want to take any action on behalf of a community that we're not a part of. And so we just let it be, but we decided that we would put something on our own stuff and thereby not vandalize anything or take, or insert ourselves into something that isn't actually for us to insert ourselves into. So we just put it on our jacket instead. A message of love for the trans community, and we really hope that that people have noticed it, that it's done good for others. It's definitely done a lot of good for us. So we originally did it in blue, and then we got this pink paint pen, so we went over it in that. And then I'll show one more here. Let's see. I guess this is a good one for this channel. Right here we have our Trafficked Lives Matter patch. This is a phrase that we really are doing a lot with. I don't think I can easily show it right now. Kind of sitting against it, and I'm actually situated in a way that doesn't hurt my back too bad, and that is a miracle, so I don't want to mess with it. But we actually have it written on the back of our pack in a huge flag. It's just something that we're really feeling called to. So it's not something that we'd heard before. I don't actually know if it's a thing, if it's a phrase. I think some parts looked it up and didn't find anything. That doesn't really mean anything. Stuff could be getting blocked from our view online. But of course it was inspired by Black Lives Matter, and we really hope that, well, it does seem to reach people. People have commented on our pack a number of times. Not as much as we would like, honestly. Even though it's very overwhelming for us, we would love to see more people actually noticing and engaging. But we also know that, for the most part, any victims who saw that wouldn't say anything, and that it could do a lot of silent good for victims. So it's just, we know that if we were to have seen that in any context, but especially like on the back of a homeless kid's pack, it would really have done something for us when we were being trafficked as a child. So we try to do things that we know would have helped us when we were a kid. I have to drink some water real quick. I'm just too dehydrated. I'm going to set the phone down. I guess the next thing that I should talk about, since the camera just focused on it, is this tree behind me. We often name trees that we connect with, and we haven't actually found a name yet for this one. We started discussing it with our husband last night, I think, or this morning, I'm not sure which. Night and day have been confusing for the fronts lately because of integration. But anyways, yeah, we were trying to figure out a name for him. I feel like it's a him, but haven't yet. However, we do feel very connected to this tree. It's sheltered us for the past day or two, and we feel like there's a lot of healing magic here. There's some animals around, a couple of cats, an interesting creature. I'm not sure what it's called, but an interesting creature that we've connected with here in Oregon. I think my husband called it a beaver rat. Anyways, there have been some interesting wildlife around, and definitely I felt connected to the birds here. So we've been really trying to soak in the healing magic. I think a big part of why we've been traveling at a faster pace lately has been we've been trying to work on healing trauma around the loss of a home that we had in a town called Oakley, California. I'm not sure I mentioned, but I was there for a while several months ago, and there's a tree there that we named Mama Oak. This incredible oak tree that revealed herself to us. She had other kin around that were very beautiful as well, that we felt really connected to. But mainly, she was the one that we actually engaged in real tree worship with. And we built shrines for her, and we camped there pretty much completely uninterrupted for I'm not sure how long, a couple months maybe. It was the best camp spot that I've ever found as a homeless person. Absolutely the best. It was just amazing. And it was by the side of a road, so it wasn't actually the most ideal necessarily, but it was a real home for us. And then she was cut down. Her whole place was destroyed. There was a pond behind her that had frogs living in it. That was destroyed. And it was destroyed in the springtime. It was March, I think, of this past year. And it was just the worst time to do something like that. The birds were nesting, and there was just so much loss there. It was a terrible, terrible thing. And of course, most people wouldn't care, but being hyper empathetic and autistic and very much an earth child, and also someone who spent most of their life incarcerated in one way or another, the bond that I have with this land is, there's just a lot of grief here for me. But it's caused me, trying to deal with this trauma, to not bond to places. I haven't been bonding with trees as much, and therefore I haven't been bonding with the places that we camp so much. And it's been causing me to be avoidant of staying in any one place too long. And there's other reasons for that too. Being homeless, there's all sorts of other reasons, but I really do think that's a big one. But finally, we felt like this tree here is so grounding and so connecting that we were just so tired. We just felt like we had to stay. Part of what's been going on and why things have been so stressful is that there have been wildfires in Oregon. I think a lot of the smoke that's been in the air has been from California, from what I heard. But there have been fires here too, serious fires. And we thankfully didn't actually get caught in any. We haven't seen any actual fire, but the smoke has been intense, and supposedly an area that we just were in, literally like a part of the town that we were in, apparently was on fire pretty badly shortly after we left it, and I think we walked to the other end of town and got on a bus, and found out right after we were getting on that bus that they were evacuating the other side of town, and then we heard that it was on fire like right after we got out of there, and that was pretty scary to think about. But otherwise, like, it hasn't seemed like that close, but we have been bouncing around trying to get to areas that are safer in this state, without being too far from this town that we have some roots in at the moment, minor but still important ones. And so it's challenging when you're outside and you have to be somewhere for any reason, trying to stay there in a time of natural disaster. It's, one thing is we really don't want to go to any shelters, and so like we're letting ourselves get exposed to smoke a little bit just so that we don't have to get exposed to anything else that might come with that. But it makes it difficult. Like, it hasn't been that bad. We haven't gotten too sick, but it's definitely quite something. We actually had an offer to stay the night with someone, I think last night or the night before. No, I think it was last night. But we felt an instinct not to, even though they actually seemed safe, which is rare, but they actually seemed safe. But we had an instinct not to, and then found out shortly after that the place is, being totally evacuated. So it's just unfortunate. Like, the few opportunities we do have oftentimes to get inside, like, there's still something going on that makes it impossible. So I feel like I'm really rambling right now. I didn't mean to so much. I'm really exhausted, and not even that stoned anymore. I'm just exhausted. So this is probably a really boring video, but maybe I'll post it. Hopefully it'll give some insight into our life if we do. The whole point of all this is just to document our integration process, and I feel like sometimes there's no better way than to just talk about what's happening right now. All right, that's all I've got. Thanks.